Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're well, and welcome to part two of the Pi Cycle Top. We've already covered part one. So in part one, we discussed what the Pi Cycle Top was, how it's used, when it's being used, and how accurate it has been. In the 2013 bull run, where we had the two peaks, the 2017 bull run, and now we're going to be talking about I forgot. Sorry. The 2021 bull run. I hope everyone is well. Okay, so just very quickly, just before we begin, let's have a look at who's in the chat. Can I just ask, can you guys hear me now? I hope this is connected. Okay, so we have Mark Volmer. And Mark Volmer is also part of the Crypto Princess army. So we've got Alex Storyteller, Black Hat Team, Rob C, Mr. J, Mike Volmer, John Legend, and Vagas. And I'll tell you guys, if you wanted to join the Princesses Army, it's very, very easy. I'll let you know how to do it. We've got another member of the Princesses Army, Mr. Alex Storyteller. Greetings and salutations. Good to be here. Support Crypto Princess, everyone. He's so lovely. And we've got John Legend, who I put into the Crypto Princesses Army last week. We've got Black Hat Team, and we've got David. We've got Steve. Good morning to you as well. And we've got Harp, the lovely Harp. Good morning. Rob C, another member of the Princesses Army. We've got the lovely Ironweed Piper, who's absolutely amazing. We've got Alexandra G, the mod queen. And that's it for now. If you are watching, do say hi so I can shout to you out and I know who's here. Okay, let's talk about the Pi Cycle Top, the Pi Cycle Top indicator. As I've explained before in part one, the Pi Cycle Top indicator is a technical analysis. It's an indicator designed to signal when Bitcoin is likely near the market top. It's based on the relationship between two moving averages, the 111 simple moving average, and it also tracks the price of, which basically tracks the price of Bitcoin's movements over the last 111 days. We also have the other moving average, which is the 250-day moving average multiplied by 2, and that tracks the average moving price of Bitcoin over the last 52 days, and it's updated daily. Okay, so when we discussed April 2020, 13, we discussed what led up to the bull run. So we had, just a very quick recap, we had the Cyprus banking crisis. Remember, it was quite near to the 2008. We were still feeling 2008. Bitcoin was seen as a safe haven. The whole of Europe was worried about what could happen. There was also an increase in media attention and growing adoption. And there was a surge in Bitcoin users and holders because of Mt. Gox. What triggered the dip was the Mt. Gox temporarily, just for a day, it suspended trading, which was huge because for most people, Mt. Gox was Bitcoin. There was technical issues with the exchange. The narrative of the 2013 April bull run was Bitcoin is the digital gold, and also there was a lot of early adoption excitement. So with the with the 2013 Pi Cycle Top indicator, it was only 4 days off. The indicator was triggered on the 5th of April at 142. The Bitcoin's price was 142. The Pi Cycle peak was on the 8th of April, and it actually peaked at 230. It was 4 days off, and it was only $87 off. Then we had another top in 2013. We had a top in November. This was the recovery from the April crash. It was again increased media coverage and retail interest. There was a lot of growing adoption internationally, especially with the Chinese investors. Especially with the Chinese investors. I'm just going to keep a quick eye on the chat. Oh, JR, welcome to you as well. Okay, so that led up to the November 2013 peak. It did hit, Bitcoin did hit and exceed the 1,000 US dollars per Bitcoin. I think it peaked at 1,150 Bitcoins. And then we had a market correction mainly driven by the China ban, but also the momentum was unsustainable. And again, the narrative was for that was it was a revolutionary currency, it was digital gold, it was the future. Then if we look at just very quickly, in November 2013, Bitcoin, the peak, the signal was given on the 1st of December, so one day after the actual peak, and the price difference was only 15 US dollars. When we look at 2013, which was Bitcoin's second bull run, the signal was given on the 15th of December. The Bitcoin's price at the time was 17,900. 2 days later, Bitcoin actually peaked at 19,650. That was only a difference of 2 days and just a difference of 1,750. So the Pi cycle indicator has been very, very accurate. And the price differences between when the Pi cycle indicator has gone off and when it actually peaks is very, very minimum. If we look at 2017, because we did cover this last live stream, in 2017 we had that ICO boom drive in altcoins. Before that, we had Ethereum go up. Everybody saw Ethereum go up. Ethereum was revolutionary. It was the world's computer. There was a computer. It was advertised as the world's computer. Retail. A lot of retail came in, a lot of institutional adoption. There was a lot of institutional adoptions. There was social media hype. Once the Pi cycle top was triggered, there was a lot of profit taking, and there was also regulation concerns, and we went into detail about them. We had extreme FOMO in 2017, unlike we saw at any other time, but it's not like the euphoria that we saw in 2021. So let's cover 2021. Before we actually cover 2021, we do need to cover 2020, which was a bear market. But just to let you know that on the 12th of April, the indicator for the Pi cycle top was signaled. Bitcoin's price was just under 60,000. I think it was 59,600. 2 days later, Bitcoin peaked at 64,800 US dollars, about 4,000 odd pound US dollars difference. It was very, very accurate. Okay, so if we look at 2021, the run-up to 2021 actually began in October, around about October, November time of the halving year. That's when money tends to flow in, and that kind of like aligns with the US election as well. Even though, what was it, Biden? It doesn't matter. It just normally, it doesn't matter who's elected. Money does tend to flow into Bitcoin around then. At that point, it broke the 10,000 mark, and that 10,000 US dollar mark, and that attracted renewed attention from retailers and investors. Now, by early 2021, Bitcoin had climbed from about 30,000 in January to over 60,000 by mid-April. And this was driven by many things, including strong momentum and a glowing global awareness. And we will actually go into some of the things that actually drove this. Some of the key drivers were stimulus checks. Many people, especially retail investors and traders in the US, used their stimulus funds to enter crypto, and that added a lot of buying pressure. There was a huge amount of institutional adoption. Tesla is a company that we will cover in February 2021. It added a lot of legitimacy into crypto because it bought 1.5 billion Bitcoins. Let me just have a quick look at the chat. I'm on like 2 different pages, unfortunately, so I've got to come and go. We have to say hello to Nightbot. I do love my little Nightbot. Okay, so that was the Pi cycle. That's a little bit about the Pi cycle top. We have to also include in there the macro environment. There was low interest rates. There was a fear of inflation. There were concerns over fiat currencies because of the amount of money that had been printed in to combat the COVID pandemic. And it was seen as a store of value, Bitcoin was. There was a huge amount of media and social hype. There was loads of headlines like Bitcoin surges past 50K and digital gold hits a new record high. It drew in lots of retail attraction, and that created a viral FOMO that we haven't seen before. There was also a lot of investor psychology. There was excitement. There was urgency dominated with people fearing that they will miss out on historical gains. Bearing in mind, a lot of people were at home in 2020, so they did have time to research cryptocurrency and crypto. A lot of people that I've interviewed on my channel as well have mentioned things like how COVID gave them time to look in deeper into crypto. There was a lot of social media hype, which was reinforced, or it reinforced the perception that Bitcoin could only go higher. And we'll also talk about things like celebrity endorsements and all the rest of it. Now let's talk about the Pi cycle top itself. So the Pi cycle top itself, like I said, was only 2 days off. It's about 4,000, 4 or 5,000 US dollars off. The main narratives for the 2021 Pi cycle, 2021 bull run, again, was that Bitcoin was digital gold. It was a hedge against inflation. Retail was foaming in. Everybody was buying. Oh my God, we have to buy all the rest of it. Tesla added a lot of legitimacy, and we're going to talk about Tesla in a little bit more detail. Mainstream adoption and regulatory clarification fueled the belief of these gains. Now, obviously, we know there wasn't a huge amount of regulatory clarification at the time, but anything from them, especially with Bitcoin and Ethereum not being securities, was a big deal. So when we hit the Pi cycle top in April, we did fall, and we fell heavily. It was spectacular, and it's so funny because it actually caught out one of the biggest companies in the world, and we'll be talking about that soon. So in May 2021, China, and this was China, excelled its crackdown. It banned banks and payments providers from holding cryptocurrency transactions. It targeted mining operations, forcing many to shut down, although China was continuing to mine. There was just so much fear and FUD beyond China, and it wasn't just China. Beyond China, South Korea and the US hinted towards stricter crypto oversight. they were going to regulate it more, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And it actually created global anxiety about the future and regulations, about tax, and all the rest of it. Exchanges were having technical difficulties around the time because there was a lot of volume coming in and out. And during high periods of volatility, some exchanges temporarily struggled with liquidity or downtime, triggering FOMO and panic. These actions help accelerate a lot of people selling their cryptocurrency at the top of around April 2021, May 2021, around that time. I do have, and I haven't got it here. Let me see if I can get it out, because I know I have one moment. Let me just get out the chart. Loose on crypto. I hope you're well. I see you. Let me have a look. What's this? So annoying when you can't find the thing that you really want to find. Look on the desktop. Okay, yeah, I found it. Okay, so here we go. So here it goes. So up they went, the two lines. The yellow is the 110-day simple moving average, and the blue is the slightly longer one at the 350-day times 2 a moving average. And the 12th of April 2021, they crossed over. 2 days later, it hit the local top of $64,000. Soon afterwards, there was all of the China FUD, and there was a lot of other things that happened here. And then what we'll see is how we just ranged for a while, and then I'll let you guys know what caused the second peak, or the second rally up, and when we actually hit the all-time high for that market. I don't know if you can see my cursor, because this is actually a screenshot. Okay. Okay. So early investors in April, May time, 2021, early investors began to take profits after the Pi cycle top hit in mid-May. We'll talk about Tesla in a second. There was also a lot of liquidations. Traders using borrowed funds were forced to sell during the top. There was FOMO reversal. New retail buyers panicked as Bitcoin fell, and they sold at a loss, and the market was overextended anyway. It had risen rapidly from $30,000 all the way up to $60,000 in a few months, and that just left the market ripe for a correction. That momentum could not be sustained. So by 2021, crypto had shifted from a niche to mainstream, and this is something else that we need to think about as well. I'm going to put this here instead of right at the end, because you kind of see this in the first part of 2021 and the last part of 2021, where you had both peaks. You also see it in the middle, but not so much. So by 2021, celebrities will play a big role in crypto. Big names from music, film, sports, social media began lending their influence to cryptocurrency projects, either through things like endorsements or launches or even partnerships. And what this did was it helped bridge the gap between crypto insiders and retail and basically the general public. Familiar faces, when you have celebrities endorsing a token or a project, it does draw in a huge amount of attention beyond the crypto crowd. For example, I think it was June 2021, Kim Kardashian posted an Instagram story endorsing Ethereum Max Max, I think it was Ethereum Max, to hundreds of millions of followers, or however many followers she has, and that made the price surge by 100x in a short space of time, and then it literally lost all of its value. So it was a classic pump and dump. You also had celebrities like Snoop Dogg, and I actually really like this, because Snoop Dogg, and we'll talk about Dogecoin when we talk about Elon Musk, because he was absolutely massive. I've had people on the Crypto Story series literally talking about how Elon Musk and his appearance on Saturday Night Live got them into crypto, but it was actually Snoop Dogg who tweeted support for Dogecoin, which helped boost its visibility and its price. I think it was on the 6th of February 2021. Snoop Dogg tweeted, or he retweeted something along the lines of, this is like the next thing, da-di-da-di-da, this is like the meme movement, and he referenced Elon Musk. And that was on the 6th of February. We'll talk about what happened in May with Elon Musk in a minute. So when you have things like sports stars, you have sports stars, clubs and actors and all the rest of it getting involved, what they also did was they started to take payment in crypto, which added more hype. And some people actually took salaries. I know there was a huge person who I don't really know too much about him, because he was American, and he started to take his salary in crypto, and that just helped legitimize crypto almost. Lindsay Lohan, I absolutely love Lindsay Lohan. Yes, she had a bit of a past, bless her, but she's lovely. In February 2021, so early on, Lindsay tweeted concerns about inflation. She was completely right about inflation, especially because they printed so much money in 2020. And then she tweeted about the US dollar, and she referenced Bitcoin as an alternative. So she was right up there. She really was. So these tweets and these endorsements create massive pumps. And it just highlighted how celebrities can shift the narrative towards crypto. So according to some research, in 2021, crypto companies announced 201 new sporting advertisements, sponsorship deals, and spent well over $600 million on sponsorships. That's a huge amount, completely unheard of. And this is what separates 2017, where we had a lot more institutions come in, and 2021. Crypto wasn't just a financial movement anymore. It had turned into literally this marketing phenomenon. Major corporations, especially Crypto.com, FTX, and Binance, they actually began competing not just for users, but also for the biggest stars, and just cultural reference, if that makes sense. We started to see crypto logos everywhere on Formula One cars, football jerseys, NBA arenas. And do you remember the Super Bowl? Crypto was right there. It's literally gone from this niche, crypto bros to like this pop culture phenomenon. It was everywhere, and it wasn't just about visibility, it was about psychology as well. Crypto campaigns were designed to make crypto feel mainstream, safe. And remember, who was it? It was Matt Damon as well. I think it was he at the Super Bowl, I'm not entirely sure. And it just linked crypto to personal investments and all the rest of it. It was absolutely huge. And what it did was it created a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. People were just not buying Bitcoin, they were buying belongings and status, especially through the NFTs. The emotion was completely and utter euphoric, both in the early part of 2021 when the Pi cycle top was hit, and then later, which in later part of 2021, in November 2021, which could have been a dead count balance. And that's one of the main reasons why people say that the second peak in November 2021 was a dead count balance, because the price cycle top was not hit. And I can also again I can also again hello Steve, I hope you're well. Thank you, Alexandra G. Please do subscribe, like, and share. Some exchanges still do have technical difficulties. They most certainly do. And Loose on Crypto, hope you're well. But yeah, there was a huge amount that was going on in 2021. So the Pi cycle top was not hit in November 2021. And I think we really need to talk about that, because that's one of the reasons that people were thinking, oh my God, it's going to get to 100,000, all the rest of it. Before we do anything like that, we'll still stick on Elon Musk and Tesla, because they had a massive role to play in crypto in 2021. And we can't underestimate how big their role was. So in February 2021, Tesla announced that it was purchasing approximately 1.5 billion US dollars worth of Bitcoin, which was over 40,000 Bitcoin. I think it was like 43,000 Bitcoin. The company also said that it was starting to accept Bitcoin as payments for the Tesla cars. They did sell some of this Bitcoin in Q1 for profit. Now, the impact of a company like Tesla, one of the biggest in the world, and obviously associated with Elon Musk, meant that there was a lot of institutional validation brought in for crypto, especially for Bitcoin, and the price surged following this news, and Tesla boosted market confidence. Now, in May, remember, we've just hit the Pi cycle top. I think it was on the 12th of April. In May, when the price was starting to decline for Bitcoin and the other cryptos, on the 8th of May 2021, Elon Musk hosted Saturday Night Live. And so many people have said that this is what helped them get into crypto or got them excited about crypto. And he said Dogecoin was the future of currency, and it was an unstoppable financial vehicle. Now, the impact on that meant that Dogecoin spiked, and then it dropped very suddenly and sharply. Sorry, it dropped very sharply, 20 to 30%. There was massive mainstream exposure for the meme coin, and people FOMO'd in. So what could have happened is, because this happens a lot, this is one of the reasons why I don't share coins. What happens a lot is when you get celebrities or you get influencers, and they will say to you the next best thing, just like Elon Musk was saying, the future of currency is Dogecoin, blah, 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 blah. And he said that on Saturday Night Live. You get a lot of FOMO. You have a lot of people coming in. That drop of 20-30%, obviously it was traders, some traders, but it could have been Elon Musk dropping on a lot of people who already bought in. Anyway, with Tesla, in Q2 of 2022, so after the price, or roundabout or after when the Pi cycle top was hit, it was probably afterwards, because Tesla revealed it had sold 75% of its Bitcoins holding at prices well below their original purchase price. So they actually lost 204 million US dollars for that year when it came to Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself, from 64,800 from 2 days after the Pi cycle top was hit, it dropped to roughly 30,000 by late May. It was a 53% drop in just over a month. That was huge, absolutely huge. A lot of people were selling, a lot of retail was selling, because they don't understand what crypto, or especially what Bitcoin was. Volatility was massive because of the fear and the uncertainty, especially learning about Tesla selling at a loss as well. Now, during the November 2021 all-time high, where Bitcoin hit 69,000 US dollars, the Pi cycle top was not triggered. So this does actually suggest that the November peak may have been a dead cat bounce, rather driven by hype, rather than a second peak. Because if we look back at 2023, the Pi cycle top was hit twice, and it is historically the most accurate signal, just a few days off, really, the top, if that makes sense. So let's talk about November 2021. I've basically covered all of what the Pi cycle top, what the Pi cycle top is, how it's used in this live stream and last live stream. So in this live stream and the last live stream, I've covered the Pi cycle top, what it is, how to use it. Remember, you can't really use the Pi cycle top on shorter time frames. You can only use it on extended, larger time frames. It just does not work. You use it with other indicators. You don't use it by itself, if that makes sense. We've talked about every time that it's hit, or it's indicated the top, and how it's only been a few US dollars or a few days off. There is no indicator that is more accurate than the Pi cycle top. Now, in November 2021, like I said, we didn't actually hit the Pi cycle top, and in November, if you remember, that was when people were saying, okay, we're going to the moon now, we're having an extended cycle, we're having a super cycle. One thing that they were looking for was the Pi cycle top, and that was just never hit. It did catch some people off guard. After the November 2021 top, how did we get to the November 2021 top? Again, it was FOMO. Again, it was it was a scarcity of Bitcoins on the exchanges. So after the first peak, when the Pi cycle top was hit, a lot of people took their Bitcoin off the exchanges to hodl them. Because they did that, there was a shortage of Bitcoin on the exchanges, and that shortage led to the second peak. And I've always said that it's always going to be, or I think it's probably going to be, something along the lines of a Bitcoin supply shock that will take us to the top. That's coming up, hopefully, the next top, if that makes sense. Once we hit the November 2021 top, and I'm just going to talk about what brought us into the bear market and a little bit about the bear market, because we do have time today. We covered a huge amount on the previous live stream. So if you haven't seen the previous live stream, do go and check that out. We had a rise in inflation, and we were expecting hikes in interest rates from central banks, especially the Federal Reserve. And this just made people not want to speculate in high risk assets. The global economy environment was becoming very restrictive. Liquidity from stimulus programs was drying up. There was a fear of economical shutdowns, and that made investors rotate their money into safer assets like bonds and cash. Crypto volatility or market volatility, especially in tech stocks, also contributed to this selling. There was regulatory issues and pressures. Remember the SEC around November around the top, they started to issue world notices to cryptocurrency exchanges and to cryptocurrency projects. You don't want your project or your exchange to go in front of the council. You just don't want to do that. So people sold, and there was ongoing regulatory concerns all over the place. And DeFi was getting very uncertain, if that makes sense. There was also the delays and the denials of the Bitcoin ETF. which created more uncertainty. And again, China continued bans, reinforcing global regulatory fears. Market sentiment also shifted. So after the hype of November 2021, retail FOMO reversed. So now they were just trying to get out. They were trying to save whatever they could save. And so many people have round tripped, or they did round trip 2021. And it got to a point where they didn't even want to sell their coins because they had lost so much money. They were expecting the super cycle. They were expecting Bitcoin and altcoins to continue going up. Sorry, that's just the cat. To continue going up. Many people just sold too late, and they've a lot of people, especially there's people in many groups that I'm in, who are just round tripping or trip their bags. One thing that you need to know is that whatever's in the top 50, one bull run doesn't mean that that's going to automatically do well the next bull run if it's going to be in the top 50, or even if it's going to be in the top 100. And we've seen a lot of coins do absolutely awful. Do you remember things like the metaverse? Oh my gosh, like Sandbox, how big was that? And Decentraland, oh my god, that was absolutely huge. People were, and institutions were, at this point when they were there was a point when they were putting millions of pounds into Sandbox and Decentraland, 4 million just to buy virtual land because they thought that was the future. Remember, Facebook also changed its name to Meta, and I remember this time. I'm like, no matter what happens, like, this is going to be the future. What's it called? Yeah, this is going to the metaverse, etc. is going to be the future. I don't know if you guys remember all of that. Yeah, it was it was such a big thing. And then also, obviously, we had the NFTs as well. A huge amount of people, a lot of people bought a lot of NFTs. They were spending millions of US dollars on literally a picture of a rock or something similar. You had the gamers. Gaming was a massive narrative last bull cycle. You had gamers come in and they were purchasing skins for different games and different things, and they were like, these are investments for us, these are just going to appreciate over time. Come the first month to, well, a few months of 2022, all of that just went literally to zero. NFTs have made a comeback, but they've made a comeback as RWAs rather than JPEGs. So for anyone who's unaware, and I have said this before on the channel, an NFT is a code that lives on the blockchain, and that proves ownership for a particular item. Now, though they're mostly associated with JPEGs and pictures and arts, an NFT can be absolutely anything. It could be deeds to a house, or it could be receipts for your shopping, if that makes sense. And BlackRock and other major institutions, they want to put everything onto the blockchain on NFTs or RWAs. So they want to put all their real estate onto NFTs and into the RWA narrative, which are basically, at the end of the day, what they are they're glorified NFTs, if that makes sense. So when they sell something, they want to put all commodities on the blockchain as well, and that's how they're going to be doing it. So NFTs have just evolved, and so have smart contracts as well. So we had loads of things. We had, the bear market came in at the, after we hit the all-time high. Remember, and I've said this many times, the market does not, sorry about the cat, because I've got something on my, so as we're going up, there's a lot of good news. There's a huge amount of good news, and everyone's so bullish. It doesn't come to a particular point, a particular moment, a particular day, even a particular week where we all of a sudden we go into, everybody's like, oh my god, let's just run. We're going to go down into a bear market. The markets, apart from April 2013, all of the markets have topped on bullish news, if that makes sense. And then people will continue to FOMO in until they realize that we are in a bear market. And we can go through indicators that will show us when we are in a bear market. There was a lot of tighter monetary policies, and that reduced liquidity in the markets. It just diminished appetite for risky assets like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. There was a liquidity crunch. The stimulus programs, which had added a lot of money into cryptocurrency, into Bitcoin, that capital was just rotating out into safer investments. It was drying out. People preferred bonds and equities. The crypto market faced a real liquidity crunch, and that created and added to the downward pressure. So when we hit the bear market, things just went from bad to worse. It was a massive bear market. A lot of people thought that the bear market would end at 30,000 US dollars and then it will go up. So I've had people like Lewis Rashkin, who's been on the channel. He accurately predicted the top in 2021, the November 2021 top. But even he said, he goes, you know what? I thought the bear market will go down to 30 US dollars and then it will go, straight up. It didn't. It went pretty much to 16,000 US dollars, and it bottomed a year later in November 2022. Horrible things happen. And there's a lot of people who are not in crypto today because of the things that have happened. Now, I always talk about 3 Hours Capital. That was a large crypto hedge fund. It was over leveraged on multiple positions and it collapsed. I think it was the first to collapse. I'm not entirely sure, but it was in mid 2022. It collapsed. And that just caused a ripple effect in exchanges and lending platforms. We had Celsius and Voyager. I mean, these platforms had billions of US dollars in them. So these were lending firms and they filed for bankruptcy literally very close together. Apologies. And that eroded a lot of trust in central exchanges and central platforms, if that made sense. And then obviously we had FTX. That was a sudden collapse of FTX. It was one of the largest crypto exchanges, and that happened in November 2021. And that kind of marked the bottom, if that made sense. It just led to a lot of withdrawals. We can't forget Terra Luna. So that collapse, I'm pretty sure that was in May 2022, and it wiped out billions in stable coins. It fueled a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt entered into the market. These were big players. So Bitcoin fell from around about 47,000 US dollars at the start of 2022. So from 69,000 US dollars in November, it fell down to about 47,000 pounds by January. And then from there until November, it went down to 16,000 US dollars. That was a collapse of 65%. It was very difficult for the people who lived through that period. It was very difficult. The decline was sharp. It was prolonged. And the rebound just failed to hold up. So we did have bounces, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of extreme volatility. The collapse of major institutions caused liquidations and panic selling, and that just accelerated to the downtrend. A lot of retail investors and traders lost confidence in decentralized platforms. They withdrew their funds and they moved on. And we need to remember about traders. So with trading, you will often find that a trader would have his best performing year in a bull market, followed by his worst performing year. Often traders lose everything that they make in a bull market in the bear market, because the bear market and the bull market flip. So the bull market flips into a bear market, and it does it Okay, so you're saying no, I don't. Okay, we will talk about that in a moment. I can address that. By the way, nothing I say is ever financial advice. So what you find with traders is that they often have their worst performing year, because when the bull market is going up, they're making lots and lots of money. Sorry, I can't use this hand because I'm actually holding my laptop here. So traders have their best performing year in a bull market. Everything's going up. What that happens to their psychology, and this is not just for novice traders, this is for professional traders. I've read about traders who have 20 years of experience. They can manage funds of millions of US dollars, and still they're prone to this as well. As the bull market is going up, as a bull market is going up, they actually relax their risk management strategies. They put more money on, they increase their leverage because they're always winning. They're winning. Nobody knows when the flip is. You only find out afterwards, especially when the momentum is going on as it is. Now, bearing in mind the Pi cycle top was not hit in November 2021. The fall of November 2021 was just epic, and a lot of people lost pretty much everything that they made in that bull cycle in November 2021, waiting for the next Pi cycle top. That's why the Pi cycle top is so important, if that makes sense. But then when you think about it, when we didn't hit the Pi cycle top in November 2021, you have to make sure that it doesn't always work, if that makes sense. It doesn't always work. And I'm just going to end it here, that during the bear market, obviously the Pi cycle top never hit in November 2021. People thought that they were going to the moon, blah de blah de blah. Bitcoin was going to 100,000 US dollars, all the rest of it. Headlines like FTX collapses, Celsius freezes, customer funds, etc. It just created widespread fear. There was a lot of also influencers who were shilling that we are going to go to the moon, if that makes sense. Many investors questioned whether Bitcoin itself was at risk, and all the rest of it. There was just a huge amount of loss in confidence, and the failures highlight the danger of leverage, of the lack of transparency, and risk holding your crypto on exchanges or on platforms like FTX, Celsius, all the rest of it. The market sentiment really shifted, and long-term holders, and it was just pretty much long-term OG investors who really did profit, because we did have another top. What was this question about the tops in? Bitcoin's top is in 126K. Will be no altcoin season, no matter how many ETFs you will have. Nobody knows the future. And 2021 humbled us all, saying that we haven't seen any euphoria this cycle, if that makes sense. We have always had the halving year, the bull run year, the bear market year, and the recovery year. Bearing in mind when the gold ETF was, it was in 2024, when the gold ETF was approved, gold hit literally, I think it was 7 or 8 years, it just went up straight. It was a massive, the ETFs literally changed the whole of the gold cycle, and it just went up for a very, very long time. And I think again in 2000, when we had the crisis back then, I don't have the charts up, when we had the crisis back then, gold did perform really, really well. The ETFs are the reason I think we're experiencing a cycle that we are. Sorry, the cat's on the table. The ETF is the reason why we're experiencing the cycle as we are, because when the ETFs came through, we had the halving before. We had the all-time high before the halvings. To me, I think we are still following the 4-year cycle. I do think there is a bear market coming up. I don't think that there's so many things that have not happened in this market, and it's completely fine. If you think the bear market top, the Bitcoin market top is in, take your crypto and exit and leave. I would do that. If I thought the top was in, I would take my crypto, I would exit and leave. I don't think the top's in. I don't. However, I can't be sure. Nobody can be sure. If somebody says to you that they know, they actually don't know. The Pi cycle top hasn't been hit. I will be waiting for the Pi cycle top. Alt season at 250, 250. Already did what? Already did. I'm not too sure about that. I'm waiting for multiple indicators, if I'm completely honest. Okay, I'm waiting for multiple indicators. I don't think this cycle is anything different. We saw it in 2017, especially, and we saw it again in 2021. You will always get the moon boys who will be like, this time's different, this time's different. Bearing in mind what happens in the bull cycle. Remember what happened in 2021, where you had all the celebrity endorsements, you had all the you had sports clubs and partnerships and all the rest of it. When you get to something like that, what happens is it's not in the best interests of the influencers to say the bear market top is in, because they will get more and more income from their endorsements and all the rest of it. I really don't think that. I think we're going to 150, pretty much. I do, and then after that, I'll see where we're going. In fact, I shouldn't have said that because I hate giving predictions. Just remember, when I said 150, also just do remember when we hit 100,000 US dollars, what did we see? We saw a massive, massive sell wall. People were taking profits. It was so difficult to cross that line, that 100,000 line, and stay above it. I think we'll see something similar when we get to psychological levels like 150, 125, etc. So yeah. Bitcoin, nevertheless, if you're in Bitcoin, just know Bitcoin has never it's done is hit local tops. Bitcoin, the first Genesis block was in 2009, the 3rd of January 2009. Since then, it's been going like this. You could have got multiple. I mean, back then you had to mine your Bitcoin because nobody was selling them. Blah 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 blah. You could have got loads of Bitcoin. They were literally under a cent. You know, you could have got a lot of Bitcoin. It was pretty much worthless. 16 years later, each Bitcoin is over 100,000 US dollars. For me, it depends if you have a long-term mindset or a short-term mindset. Everybody knows that I'm keeping my Bitcoin for my future generations. I have a very long-term mindset when it comes to Bitcoin, and it's very, very important for me to keep it in my mind that this Bitcoin that I've got here, it's for my great-great-grandchildren. That's my long-term mindset. Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor, last bull cycle 2021, he actually bought the top. He bought the top. Was he worried? Absolutely not, because he wasn't a swing trader. He wasn't a position trader. He had a long-term future that he was going to keep and hold his Bitcoin for decades, if that makes sense. So it depends what mindset you have. And I think also a lot of people don't understand. Are you an investor or are you a trader? What's the time? Okay, I'm going to end it in just a moment. Are you an investor or are you a trader? Because there's a massive difference between investing and trading. Investing is like watching paint dry. It's watching grass grow. And if you're not doing it like that, you're just doing it wrong. That is how you do investing. Watch paint dry, watch grass grow. If you're not doing it like that, then you're something else. You could be a trader. So for example, there's many traders. A lot of people don't understand that there's so many different types of traders. You have scalpers. What scalpers do is they look for tiny movements. They will take dozens to hundreds of trades a day. That's what scalping is, dozens to hundreds of trades a day. And they will just capitalize on these tiny movements, and they can open their trades for seconds or minutes, if that makes sense. Then you have day traders. Day traders normally take several trades in a day. They don't take one trade a day. They normally take several trades a day. Normally, they will be in different markets as well. Most of the day traders that I know, they're not exclusive to the crypto market. They do other markets as well. With day traders, they don't leave their trades on overnight. That's swing trading. Swing trading is where you leave your trade on overnight. It could be overnight, it could be for a week, or for a few days, it can be for a week, even maybe a month or something similar to that. That's swing or a few months. That's swing trading. And then you have position traders. And almost everyone that I know in crypto outside of Bitcoin, almost everyone else in the altcoin market are position traders. And I'm a position trader when it comes to my altcoin bag. A position trader will buy an altcoin and they will hold it for months or years. I will never hold any of my altcoins, I just will not hold any of my altcoins for more than 4 years, if that makes sense. So a lot of altcoins I actually bought in 2022, 2023, I've still got them. I'm planning on just exiting whenever I can with those altcoins. I'm a position trader mainly. The only thing that I'm actually an investor in is Bitcoin, which I'm looking to hold for decades, if that makes sense. Hello, Crypto Princess. Looks like everything bubble is popping today. Stocks, cryptos, and commodities in the red. Yeah, that's just, yeah. Welcome, Damien. I hope you're well. That's just completely normal. It's just a day in crypto, if that makes sense. Actually, I didn't show you because I didn't have the chart up, but there were multiple days, and I don't know how many days they were, but there were multiple days in the 2021 bull cycle where we actually dropped 10,000 US dollars. It's too late now for me to open Trading View and get out the charts. Bearing in mind, I don't have a mouse. I've only got my laptop keyboard, but there were multiple days and it's so interesting. It really, really is. It's like the Japanese carry trade that we had last year, where you saw that big red candle. There were so many of those red candles in the last bull cycle, and then you kind of see what happened afterwards as well. It's very, very interesting. In fact, that's the thing that I love the most, actually going back and researching and finding out what happened in the last cycles, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to love it and leave it here. On Thursday, we have a Crypto Stories interview with Bill Noble. So for those people who don't know Bill Noble, he was big. He was big in 2021. He was part of the Token Metrics team. He has such a great story to tell. Oh my God, I was so fascinated when I learned his story. It was absolutely amazing. So he worked for Goldman Sachs. He was literally one of their top guys, and he gave that all up and he came into crypto. I actually do not think that I know anyone else who knows TA quite like him. He actually traveled the world to learn his TA, his crypto story, and there's so much to learn in his crypto story. Will be out on Thursday, and then next week we might cover some sort of psychology or maybe another indicator on one of the live streams. Anyway, I hope you're all well. Enjoy the rest of your week, and thank you for watching.